I don't know how it started, I don't know what you did. Now I'm the gal that's chasing you up, really flip my lid. Come here, eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Well, what are you gonna do with this eager beaver, baby of mine? Ooh, I'm all there beside you, no matter where you stop. I'll follow you to movies, even to the
Hello.
and
welcome to
Was That an Orgy?
Starring Charlene, that's me, and Teresa,
Otherwise known as Teresa.
Bob. Two sisters that explore the topics of sex, sexuality, gender, and sex positivity in today's society. We will also try to answer the question, was that an orgy? Today, we have The Art of Going Slow with Joseph O. Joseph, welcome to Was That an Orgy?
Was it, Joseph? That's what we really want to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
Was this was that an orgy?
Just now? No. No.
Okay.
I can answer that one.
Thanks for clearing that up. Can you start by giving us a little background before you start getting into going slow?
Going deep and slow.
Yes.
And then fast and deep.
Actually, I think it's good news. The background is there really isn't much of a background. I am just a slutty person, and I've had a lot of experience being a slutty person.
Let's unite.
I've had a bit of experience being a sex educator, and I've had a little experience being a sex worker, and so a lot of what I've come to is it's personal experience, but it's reinforced that when I talk with other people and when I interact with other people and when I read about sex, I see a lot of commonality. So I've learned that we go too fast is the short version.
Yeah.
I tend to be wordy, but if I were gonna to sum it up, we go too fast.
I hate to interrupt you, but I have to cough because I just inhaled my water. It's worst timing. Grandma, sorry.
Okay, we have a coughing break.
Yeah, a little
for Grandma
coffee.
here.
Not a coffee. But
Okay, Grandma Ball,
Yes,
are you
but
all right? Let's
I'm
get
all
back
right,
to Joseph.
Shirley. So yeah, I agree with you. We go too fast, and sometimes I think that can even come from shyness and anxiety. Let's get to the bonding.
Most of the time, I believe that. In fact, if I'm going to give the most positive possible read, I feel like a lot of our sexual problems come from fear, misunderstanding, hesitancy, and strangely, a hesitancy to go slow, as if it's not enough activity or I'm not sure. I feel it too. When you're not getting enough reaction in the way you're touching, it can feel like you need to do something different, or it can feel like you have to do something more extreme, something harder or more direct maybe. And that's not always the case. In fact, often it's the opposite. It's that somewhat counterintuitively, sometimes going slower can actually have a huge impact.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like when someone gets really quiet, it's because maybe they're going into their mind and they're going like, "Oh wow, that's really cool. That's amazing. That's something new to me," and that maybe in that moment someone wouldn't be receiving response or feedback, but what's happening internally for the other person is really profound.
Right.
Yeah. And as the neurotic interjector here, I think some of it can be as well. Like, a lot of people have a fear of intimacy, and yet that's probably the deepest, most healing internal drive is to have true intimacy.
Yes, intimacy can be very scary too.
Yeah.
And this actually, so when you have really intense sex, that lots of orgasms, and it's very fun, it feels intimate oftentimes, even if it's not someone that you're in love with or you have like a deep special bond or attraction to. In that moment, sharing that activity with them, you do. It's like that song, Love the One You're With. I don't think that's so much a call to just rampant and totally unchecked sexual promiscuity. I think it's a call to, first of all, if you're going to be having sex with someone, treat them well, and then maybe you don't always have to be having sex with the same person, and that's all.
Yeah, and be mindful about where you are.
Yes,
And
communication is very
yeah,
important.
so loving the one you're with could mean like, hey, I'm here with you. This is, I am absolutely 100% present. And this
Yeah.
is what's- yeah.
It's not, the song isn't fuck the one you're with. It's love the one you're with.
Yes.
Yeah, so bringing your presence
Although that'd be a
to
different
them.
song.
I think we should write it.
It's 2021, baby.
No,
We can
boom.
redo this.
Okay.
Boom, shaka, boom, shaka. Yeah. Yeah, so bringing your presence to the person that you're with can be the most profoundly fulfilling experience, instead of like what we've been conditioned to do, which is oftentimes avoid out of fear. Being seen, and seeing.
Yeah.
Powerful.
It is.
So it's funny how a lot of the times our fears come up in the way of exactly what we most deeply desire. And,
Yeah.
fear being rejected, I think, has
Yeah.
something to do with that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Fear. So this is it's one of the biggest things to overcome, is that feeling comfortable in your skin, feeling comfortable with your partner, even if it's been a partner of a long time. Sometimes it can be. Being a partner to someone isn't just a sexual thing. So some people are fantastic partners, and their sexual relationship isn't what they want it to be. And so what I'm advising is not like a method necessarily. It's more of kind of a meta methodology, right? It's a way to discover what it is that you need to be doing with a person.
Wait, what does meta methodology?
Get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So a methodology is a method. It's a way to do a thing.
Right.
And a meta methodology, the way I'm thinking about it, is a way to go about figuring out what you're supposed to be doing in the first place, right? And
Okay.
it's not read a book necessarily. I don't think. I think reading books are great and educating yourself is great. But the other thing that I wanted to share is that understanding what a body part is called is not the same thing as understanding what a body part is. So
Yes.
quizzing a person about if they know where the clitoris is isn't going to get you a good sexual experience. Okay?
Yeah.
A person
That's
may
not
not
an
know
owner's
what it's
manual.
called, but know exactly what it is. That's the person you want touching your bits, right? Like, they may not be able to unveil it
Well,
in
yeah.
17 languages, but they can definitely like work with it. And that sounds like an insignificant maybe distinction to make, but I think that is important. It's important to understand that there is a reality to what is happening when you are with someone in bed, and it defies your expectations and your dreams and your fantasies. It's there waiting for you. It's just happening, And
Yeah.
so part of this is about it's about orienting yourself to the experience in a way that's going to yield you the best results, right? It's going to I can't make a lot of promises, but what I do promise is that if you go into the experience focusing on pleasure and on pleasuring your partner and on pleasuring yourself and on just taking the time to sit in that, you're going to have a better experience than if you spend the entire time worried about whether you're going to come or not, or whether you're worried about whether your partner's
Right.
going to come or not.
Right.
Yes.
Not to say that you shouldn't. I don't want anyone to take that, away.
Yeah.
You should worry about whether your partner has a good experience.
For sure.
Sometimes to get that orgasm is going to be more pain than it's worth, or more of a trouble than it's worth. Maybe just sitting in pleasure this time and getting closer to that next time is the way to go.
Yeah.
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 I'd love to interject here because I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, why are we so obsessed with orgasms? Because, I was thinking about what's my favorite movie? All right, Princess Bride. Did I have an orgasm? No, I did not.
Right.
Still my favorite movie.
Right.
You can have profound experiences, and that does not need to be part of it.
Yeah.
You can have even a, extremely touching experience that doesn't need to be part of it.
Yeah.
That's not the end all be all of experience. No, I'm not against orgasms, so don't get mad at me. Okay, everybody.
You're
Don't
anti-orgasm.
write me about how much.
I hate to
I'm not an orgasm hater.
I almost have
by
to
the
put
way.
a halt, because I'm so ADD. This is the first time we've had a guest, and watching you mirrored in lag behind you, I can't even focus on what you're saying. So
I have no monitor.
Is it possible, Michael, to turn off the video, and if there's a question, you just ask? Because I think that's sexy anyway.
Yep.
So, oh, thank you.
I was enjoying it.
I can't even hear. I couldn't hear what you were saying for.
Yeah, no, that is
Thank you.
fair.
Thank
Squirrel,
you.
squirrel,
I do not
squirrel,
have
squirrel,
anything like that on this side.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's much
I was
easier.
like pirating you. Yeah.
So do you want, first, I'd like to talk a little bit about mindfulness, if that's okay.
Yes.
Because that's kind of the
Yeah.
root of all of this. So I am not an expert in mindfulness. By the way, I'm not an expert in anything, but
What are you, Joseph?
I'm just filling space.
I love
That's
it.
what he said.
Perfect. That's what we all do.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Mindfulness is consciously focusing on your experiences. It is taking the time to take the focus away from possibly the torrent of words or thoughts or images that you're normally subjected to, and to turn maybe inward more and focus on what's happening in your body. And and it's not just what's happening in your body, it's what's happening. Sounds, it can be, you can meditate with your eyes open, although it is harder, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that this is useful to us is because as you begin to focus on, now mindfulness has a long and proud tradition in Eastern meditation practices, and I am very hesitant to say that this is mindfulness. I would like to use mindfulness as a tool, right? It's a thing that that is just true. It's a thing that you can find out for yourself, which is what's kind of cool about it. Like, the reason I like it is because I will not deny anyone's spirituality, any kind of spiritual sexual experience you think you've had, be it, if you're seeing it through the lens of the Tantra or Taoist sexual practices. All of that is an amazing way to look at these things and learn about them. And they're very similar, too. You're going to find a lot of similarity. And in those similarities, a lot of it has to do with bringing the mind back to focus on what it is that you're doing. So, for example, let's say I'm with a lover and I'm worried. So what I have going on in my head is an internal dialogue or list of faults maybe that I've, mistakes I've made, like, oh God, I'm going too fast or whatever, and I can get caught up in that. And what I'm doing is I'm putting that experience between me and the thing that's happening here.
Right.
Now, I could also maybe be with someone that I've been with for a long time, and I start thinking about some fantasy or some other thing which is totally fine, by the way. I mean, as long as it's fine, it's fine. But what I'm suggesting is that those things can work. There is another thing that you can try.
Right.
And that is this, is that if you've ever done a mindful breathing exercise before, or if you've ever done mindfulness practice at all, any kind of, yoga or exercise, to me, it can be a deeply mindful experience in which your body kind of sings to you. It aches a little bit. It shows you what you've been using, and you can kind of, it helps accentuate, helps you draw the mind in and feel what it is that you're feeling, because you're actually really feeling it because you've been pumping iron or whatever.
Right.
And so that's what the focus of this is that if we can take a moment first and I want to talk about how we might start this with a partner, right? Because you don't have to approach a person and say, hey, I want to do this like different sexual thing with you, but you can. And and actually you might get a little more mileage out of it that way. But I'm not going to propose anything here that you couldn't just spring on somebody, honestly, because I'm actually going to advise you to be more conservative. And so I don't feel, now please shout me out if you feel like I am wrong here, but I feel like you could sneak this in and you'd probably be okay. But really you should probably talk, if you can, talk to the person, because you're going to get more traction. Now, they aren't always going to be able to tell you what they like, but they will be able to tell you what they don't want. And that's really what you need to start with. The most important thing in that conversation you have to come away with is what you don't do.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
You should listen to everything they tell you they want. Mental note, we're going to put that as plausible, right? Because you haven't experienced it yet, and you're not discounting their experience. We're going to put that in the plausible category because they haven't been with you yet.
Yeah.
And a lot of this doesn't have to do with how you move your hands or the way that you, your special moves or whatever.
No, it's not technique. It's intentional a lot of times.
A lot of times it's intentional. A lot of times it's the way that your energy plays with that other person's, I hesitate to use those words because they're kind of amorphous, but I feel like when you meet a person, you kind of get a vibe off of them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I meet a person and I can tell right away they don't like me, or I can tell right away that they do like me. Some people are very difficult to read.
Yeah.
And so, but that energy, sometimes you meet a person and you just light up and they light up and you start talking about whatever it is and those same kind of commonalities happen with touch. You can meet a person who's familiar in touch. So you touch them, they touch you, and you're like, I like that touch.
Right.
And then other people, it's you got to work a little bit more with it. So beginning with communication, is good because you're first of all, you're going to get all your no-go zones. And
Yeah.
that really is going to kind of open up the rest of it, because the rest of it is
Yeah.
just a little more methodical. And we're just going
Yeah.
to kind of, we're going to go through how to find those
Yeah.
feelings. Right.
I find that even applies when you're in a long-term relationship, because, you know, even though we uphold some level of consistency, we're having different experiences from one day to the next, and we need and want and feel more comfortable with different things.
Yep.
You know, so maybe one day ass play is great, and then another day, like, I had a bad burrito. I'm not so into that.
Yeah. And nothing feels like,
You
I don't
went
know.
there.
I maybe I project a little bit on this front, but I feel like all the best sex stuff I've ever got in my life that was really good, from the moment I set my eyes on it and decided I wanted it or whatever, to the moment that I got it, till afterwards, and up until now,
Yeah.
the best arc are the ones with good communication, where everybody gets what they
Right.
want, where you're not tricking people, and you don't have
Yeah.
to. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. Like, you don't, you know, if you have a good reputation for being a decent lover, you don't have to trick people. You know,
Yeah.
people want to sleep with you because it's fun. And you're
Yeah.
not, you know,
Right.
like, just don't be a jerk. So, I mean, don't be a jerk is like rule number one for all of
Yeah,
us. I think.
that really is.
A
Like,
jerk is
don't be a
subjective,
jerk,
though.
yeah.
That's
You could be a jerk, like, you know,
Yeah.
there's some BDSM jerky stuff that's probably
Yeah.
that's
Right.
pretty
And
good.
some
Right.
people might love that.
yeah.
But yeah, I be true to who you are, and just don't put on a facade, because eventually you won't be able to keep it up anyway.
Right. Right. And-
Always.
And why both be playing a role that's not authentic? You know,
Yeah.
it's just
That's-
mutual torture.
That's like applying for a job you don't really want.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, sure, I can do this for you, but do I really want to do this?
right.
Like,
Right.
nah.
Yeah. Yeah. Why waste people's time? Just
Yeah.
come
Well,
out.
and you're
with
going to
it.
be more likely to want to do the things if you get to do them on the terms that you like. Like, let's
Yeah.
say you want to have a sexual encounter with the person, and that person doesn't. You're not quite sure how they feel about you. Be cool. You know, be chill. I guess I don't know how to. You know, giving people space and room to like get to know you and warm up to you. Anyway, this is off the
Yeah,
topic, but it
yeah.
is kind of on topic too, because
It-
it does have something to do with the beginning.
So
of
too,
this.
it's
totally
still
on
about
topic.
mindfulness. You know, it's still about being present instead of pursuing your agenda. You know, that
Yeah.
you might have in your head, and then trying to project that and make someone else fit into your little cookie cutter image of what you want to get your rocks off.
Yeah.
It's really about being present.
Yeah.
And being co-creative to your sexual intimate experience with someone, and allowing them to show up too, and being responsive and respectful to
Yeah.
them showing up.
Co-creative is a great word, because
Yeah.
being slutty and having multiple sexual partners, you can get interesting perspective on things, and you begin to see that, like, so when I was 18 or 19, I liked big boobies, right? So and then I was with someone who had big boobies for a really long time, and then I thought I wanted something else, and every time some new thing would become hotter and hotter and hotter, and then if I was able to get it, it would just kind of like, and then if I have it all the time, it doesn't become something I don't want, but it certainly isn't the same cherry
Novel.
perfect novel thing that I was
right.
reaching for. So when you see this pattern and you get ahead of yourself a little bit, and you start to look and you go, okay, well, what is it that I really want? What is it that what brings me back every time? And you know what? It's never for me, and this is I never ever want to ruin anybody's sex parade ever. But for me, life got a lot simpler, and there were a lot less like accoutrement. There's a lot less performance, and there's a lot less emoting and other things that I have to do, and a lot more just kind of like trying to be present in the moment. And I'm another reason why I'm saying all this too is this is hard for me, right? I lucked out that I have ADHD brain, but I also yay.
Woo! I love ADHD brain. It's the best.
She's
Well, it's
married
also-
two of us, so
I just keep going back to that well.
People who will not stop talking.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, not sorry.
sorry, not sorry.
I don't remember what I was talking about.
Oh, squirrel! High five!
Yeah.
Sure. What
Boom.
was the other ADD person talking about?
Good Lord.
Oh,
That's fine. We can move on.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Do you want to do a mindful breathing exercise?
Yeah.
Sure.
That sounds
Right.
super awesome.
So I am not a mindful breathing. I've got my little notes here. I am not a mindful breathing exercise coach. This is not a thing I do when I'm going to have sex with someone. I merely want to offer people, you and people who may be watching, an opportunity, if albeit an amateurish one, to experience mindfulness, to experience what it feels like to just focus on your body for a little while, and then get a little verbiage around it that I have found helpful. I've picked up places.
Okay, and the one disclaimer I want to make is if you're driving your car, do not close your eyes.
I was going to say that.
Oh, see, hive mind. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a Doublemint twin.
You know, save this for when you're at home.
Yeah.
In a stationary place.
Just don't
Yeah.
close your
Preferably
eyes.
not piloting anything or operating any machinery.
Yes. Exactly.
Because the first
Yeah.
thing is close your eyes, which is
Okay.
all right. So you guys,
we
you
do
guys,
that?
yeah,
Okay.
you do that.
We're going to do it.
Now, while you're doing this, traditionally you sit up and you can clasp your hands in your lap or whatever. Feet flat on the floor is typically suggested. Not to slouch. Slouching is a sleepy activity. It's going to bring your brain not where you want it.
Okay.
It's important to be comfortable. So be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you can move.
My tailbone's a motherfucker. Okay, so here we go.
Yeah, no,
Getting
you can just
comfortable.
squirm.
All right.
Yeah, squirm all you want.
Adjust.
So now we're gonna take a big deep breath, and we're gonna take a couple big deep breaths.
Is it helpful to do like the dragon breath thing from yoga where you sort of
Breathe in through the nose and out
let
through
it,
the mouth.
yeah, and let it,
Sit on your breath a little.
yeah, let it kind of sit in the back of your throat a little bit, or no?
So that it seems to raise the pressure in the blood pressure in the body a little bit, which is fine. Kind of into the head, and then you release, and you can kind of feel that release of pressure. I think the point of this particular exercise is to we're going to get into the breathing.
Okay. I've been
and-
told I have dragon breath before, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, but that's why we have so much separation between
That's
us. at this
because of your
table.
garlic
No,
thing.
don't need to worry about it. So
Sorry.
part of this is one
just
of
ruined
those, one
that
of the
for me.
quiet exercises.
Sorry. Okay.
All right. And you can kind of let your breath become more natural.
Okay.
And when we do this, we're going to gradually just focus on the sensation of breathing.
Okay.
And if your mind starts to wander,
I feel like Terry Gross.
I feel like Terry, did you do this too?
Grossy gross.
I'm very distractible.
Welcome to.
This may not work.
I do feel relaxed. I think I can only go too deep.
So while you're doing this, and this is actually helpful. So
Yeah.
this may not be possible to do right now,
It
but
might
Yeah,
be hard
yeah.
with the boys.
But as you
the
go, if
mod,
you can go, if
the
you can go
body
find
mod
a-
sisters.
Yeah.
Mod sisters,
yeah.
it's okay. It's a little awkward to try and do with your eyes closed on a podcast.
Yeah.
What I will say is, if you can go find an app out there that you like that will walk you through a mindfulness breathing exercise. It's helpful to have someone walk you through it. It's helpful to have someone walk you through it, even if you're experienced at it, because that's just one less thing your brain has to do is to remind you to return back to the body. And what you're doing is you're just focusing on the feelings that are happening inside your body. So you're focusing on typically the breath. That is an autonomic function of our body that we can control to a certain extent, which gives us, once you begin to work with that, you can influence your body, right?
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't feel like magic. Maybe it is magic. To me, it feels
It
like
kind of is.
that
Sorry.
this ability
Dude,
to harness your intention and to focus it on things, it enhances the sensation of that thing. So if you do this long enough, you will begin to feel euphoric in your breathing, meaning your chest will start to feel lighter and you may giggle a little
Yeah.
bit and be like, okay, which can be a little disruptive actually.
That might be where I got to. Actually, I was noticing the sensations on my skin, and I was like, I'm feeling silly.
And
Let's
being
get silly.
ADD, my mind just kept thinking about drivers, like, going off the road and relaxing too much.
And in today's news, 20 drivers on Highway 26 simultaneously veered off the road into oncoming traffic.
As long as they all had
Exactly.
erections.
And spontaneously came at the same time. Like, yeah.
All died with boners.
Well, just to
yes.
tie it together, I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but like, are you kind of recommending that this is the beginning of having like a mindful sensual experience with another person, is that you do this together?
So you can. And
Okay.
often I won't do something like follow a script. That's why I had to write this down, because I don't do it. But what I will do is I'll say breathe, breathe. And that can be a powerful thing. Now, I read a book about mindfulness and hypnotism, and it was written by a hypnotist, and they were comparing the two modes. This is a real, I don't know anything about hypnotism, but a respected person in the field.
Okay.
And what they were doing is talking about scripts that they had found for mindfulness, and then breaking down the script and then putting it into hypnotist jargon to help. This is a book for hypnotists to understand mindfulness, right? Which was kind of interesting to
Okay.
read it. I'm neither of these things,
yeah.
by the way. So I
Right.
just got to flip through
Yeah.
it. And one of the things that struck me is that hypnotists talk about the permissive voice and the passive voice, I think.
Okay.
Which has to do with, they'll ask you or try and intuit how you prefer to be instructed. Do you like to say, when you feel like it, breathe deeply into your chest, and as the feeling settles upon you, do this, or breathe deeply. Breathe deeply is an authoritarian.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's not
yes,
a
yes.
bad thing, but some
Yeah.
people respond to that. They just want to be told. They don't want you to
Directive.
Yeah.
fritter around with a bunch of fancy words. They just
Yeah.
want this, and
Right.
so getting a sense of that with your partner might be good. Like just saying breathe may not be what they want to hear, so they may want to be led more gently into these sorts of things. So these are the kinds of things that it's good with the communication part, which we're still out there.
That's good.
So now I want to talk a little bit about intention and goals, and the difference between intention and goals, if there could be said to be one. And I actually had a nice long conversation with a friend about this. She didn't feel like there was an adequate division of them when I was first trying to kind of to put my finger on why I believe there is a difference between. And so what I would suggest is the difference between setting goals and creating intentions is that when you set creating the nest of intentions is what I call it, is doing the work beforehand, the communication, the massage, the yoga. We'll talk a little bit about that, mindful embodiment and stuff like that, to get you prepared, get you in the right mindset, to get you and your partner dialed in, where you feel safe and feel like the thing that you want is the thing that's going to happen. All of those things are the work that you do because you want to have an orgasm, right? Now, if what you're doing is just thinking, I want to have an orgasm, 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 it's going to be probably a little bit harder.
It's like he's a mind reader, Shar.
I know.
You know me. No.
Yeah, I've had that before,
Yeah.
so it can be frustrating, and I don't think it leads you to good behaviors anyway,
Yeah.
because it tends to lead us to move faster. It tends to lead us to we're going to bang against it until and we get enough sensation to make it happen. And so by creating this kind of material kind of case, right? Where we have our intentions, I'm going to be nice. We're not going to do BDSM today because that's a different thing. This is maybe a little softer. So everyone's on the same page. And then lastly, comfort, right? The room should be warm enough. There should be enough pillows on the bed. We are getting
God,
older
yes.
friends. Not
Yeah.
all of you. Some of you may be young and spry,
Right.
but the rest of us need pillows. So
We've got poor circulation.
get your lube, get your
Pillows.
condoms. You don't want to get up.
Room temperature, the volume of the music,
Yeah.
the level
Get
of
your
the
joint,
lighting,
get your drink.
whether or not there are audible conversations happening
Yeah.
nearby, all those things.
Yeah.
And the better you
Yeah.
can make it, look, you got kids,
Yeah.
whatever, you can only do so much. But
Right.
Yeah.
the more that you can do on, if you want to have a special experience with someone, let's say you have someone you want to try this with you got reasons, right? You got reasons you want to do this. This isn't just, I want to have a big orgasm. Me and this person need to do something different or want to try something different. Give it your best shot. Give yourself the best possible shot. Don't just rush it. Make your bed or whatever.
Especially since women's sexual response, initially for women, it's relaxation.
Yes.
That's
Oh my
why,
God, yeah.
massage, soothing our bodies is the best foreplay, is because that's our, initial sexual response.
Do you want to do the rest of this? Because you got this.
Oh, no, you go.
No,
And
but
we
this-
were-
me too.
Yeah, we were having this conversation earlier where you were talking about just that sort of making space. And I think making space allows for opening. And that I think is what cisgendered females and in general females need to do is just like open. And I think men need to open too. Like people, period. Okay, let's just say people need to open. Like,
I'm trying to degender this because
space.
my experiences with women. I am a cisgendered male. I'm a heterosexual. You know, there's a lie. I wish I wasn't because I fuck a lot more people.
I know
You'd be a much better slut if you were not a heterosexual.
I might not be alive, but I would definitely be just like not enough hours in the day.
You'd be exhausted from all the fucking you do, but yeah.
So maybe not, but if you hear any normalizing language, I would like to say maybe typical or something, and only really to point out that doesn't really matter. Like, people are so weird and really just embrace the word weird. Like, every time I'm with a new partner, they always have something. There's something. And I don't mean like stick a finger in my ear while you call me pappy or anything. I mean like they're like some part of the
Why did you just out me? That's such a dick move, dude.
Yeah. I thought you would just play it cool. I didn't know you were gonna
dig into our childhood. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Old deaf pappy, man, hard to get over that guy.
That is one of the challenging things I think that, at least I find myself really having to be very careful and intentional about is like the language, because we all come from our own experience and we want to be respectful to, this is an incredible time where we're just having this amazing, kind of like expansion.
The great
in
peeling
our,
back.
Yeah. Of
see what's underneath.
Terms, our pronouns and gender identification and sexual preference and everything. And so, you'll find me like totally deep throating my foot a lot.
Oh, yeah, and that's a struggle.
Oh,
but
shit, did I say that again? Damn it. But we're all growing. We're part of this
best.
evolution. So we got to, make room for mistakes.
Yes.
Anyway.
So allow for our correction.
That's right.
Yeah.
And our erections.
Yeah.
And
yes.
erections.
Yeah. And sorry to distract you.
No.
That's what
Lady boners encouraged.
Yeah. By the way, I'm doing so good at interjecting with all the dirty jokes that come to my mind.
You should.
Good job,
God,
dude.
it's really hard.
You can't let him
no
get
pun
away.
intended. I'm like, oh, no. Teresa, let the man talk.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway,
Don't choke
on
back
that
your
note,
dirty jokes.
Realer.
Don't choke too much.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is you have notes. So if I'm
I
really
do.
horrible,
I had to
then
bring
can,
notes
like,
because I don't wouldn't have. I don't know what to talk about. So once we're there, we've set our intentions up. Now again, you don't really have to because we're not doing anything crazy here. So we're going to start with the mindful approach, and the mindful approach is in both the giver and the receiver. I'll just talk about it that way, right? You have the person in this scenario. You're going to have a person who's relaxing, who probably has their eyes closed, and you're going to have a person who's touching them. We're just going to do hands to keep it simple. Mm-hmm. So while you're touching this person, right? You close your eyes like you are like when you're meditating, and you can breathe like when you're meditating, and you focus on your breath first because that's familiar, but then you focus on the sensation in your fingertips. And for me, when I run my fingertips like lightly over things and can like feel the texture of them, it's pleasant to me, right? It's pleasant. It can actually like feel like tickly on my fingers. That's it. That's the trick, right? I mean, there's really not much more to it. So it's pleasant, so I'm doing it. And I figure, I think about how it must feel on the other end. Like, I've had people touch me this way, lightly and gently. Now, lightly here, I'm going to use the term lightly relatively. And I'm going to use the term lightly relatively because I want to stress that there's no such thing as a technique. Like, there's no such thing as a universal thing that's going to work for people. Right. I have a lover who does not like being touched lightly. Like in one place, yes, but everywhere else, not so much. They want grabby touch, right? So when I say touch lightly, or when I say to go slowly, or when I say do these things, I mean that when you're in this time bubble, that you are lucky enough to be touching this person's naughty bits, there's going to be some level of slow movement, and there's going to be some level of fast movement, and you want to spend as much time down at the lower end of what is tolerable as possible. And that's a very long-winded way of saying not everybody likes to be tickle touched. So you have to start with the lighter touching. So you have somewhere to go from there.
Right. Yeah. And it could even be seen as like even gentle, present, and like, being a massage therapist all my adult life practically. In massage school, they called it listening with hands. So you have intention when you put your hands on another person, and again, without that agenda, like in the beginning of our massage school experience, everyone's insecure and they're trying to, like not transfer their insecurity into another person's body. And so they started saying like, explore and listen with curiosity.
Touch with curiosity.
Yes.
And that is another huge tip, is to touch with
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
That's
have to
funny.
be willing to hear.
You're saying listen with your hands, and I always think of it as seeing with my hands, but I think it's the same thing. I think you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like the way that your brain is wired to
Yeah.
respond.
And even though they called it listening with hands and massage coil, like, I became so present and observant that I would also watch someone's breathing. I would watch reactions in their body.
You're giving my whole thing away.
Oh, sorry.
They didn't need me. They just needed me to come to be an extra person here.
We totally did.
we just
But
needed
yeah.
a
Let's talk
hot
about-
guy
Yeah,
to
yes,
come
Andy,
like,
totally.
hang out
Yes,
with us for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good point, is that there's a lot of transferable skills in this world. So I thought of a dumb one the other day because I knew I was going to come on here and I was thinking of things to say, and I was out picking blackberries. And I realized that there's a lot in common with being a good lover and picking blackberries successfully.
Hell yeah.
If you go too fast, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
If you grab something that's not ripe yet and yank on it, what's going to happen is you're going to let go of it and the whole thing is going to go that way, and the one that was ripe is going to fly off into the bushes. So there's all kinds of ways that going too fast, or I was doing it in shorts because I'm stupid. So you have to go slowly and like crunch down the blackberries in front of you and around you so you don't get, So this metaphor is getting tortured. What I'm saying is...
I was going to add to it, though. I was going to
Yeah.
say, if you pick the one that's just like, a juice cluster waiting to be plucked and it melts in your hands, you better eat that right now.
You gotta eat right now.
Yeah, just saying.
It's like 2 for me, 1 for the basket. Yeah, there's always more, so that's nice. Blackberries.
Love it.
So using a mindful approach, preserving sensation. So this is moving from the slower to the faster, moving from the less intimate, a hand massage, a neck massage, a foot massage, inward to more intimate areas, and to understand that we feel like we have all these different kinds of nerve endings. I'm not a doctor, but you can feel light, like a frictional touch. You can feel pressure. Like there's different nerve endings in your body that are assigned with different tasks. And when you're lighting up all different nerve endings all at once in the vagina as hard as you possibly can, there is nowhere to go. You just blew all of everything you had. It's gone now. It's done. You got to let that shit rest. Maybe play with her head for a minute, or play with her boobies or something. But you have to. Or
Yeah, it's
instead,
true.
if what you do is you go light. Okay, so we have now all those nerve endings that respond to pressure are sitting there waiting, and they're getting anxious because they feel that there's a little pressure there, but they're like, oh, I'm just making all this up, by the way. But this is what it feels like. It feels like when you're touching here, over here, the left leg, if you're on the inner thigh over here, the inner thigh itself is not always the most erogenous area in the body, but what is erogenous about it is it's not your clitoris. That's
It's
the
right
part
next
about
door.
It's right next to it.
Yeah.
Now, if all you do is suck on a girl's left labia for 2 hours, maybe something amazing will happen. Maybe,
Yeah.
but I feel like you're gonna have maybe a little more movement than that. But doing that for a little, even if that isn't their spot, the fact that it's like right next to what or maybe it is, and you
Yeah.
won't know until you do.
Yeah,
Now,
gotta try it.
if you don't know what all the bits and the parts are, that's fine. You can look it up, or you could just use your hands.
Yeah.
Just use your hands. Now,
Yeah.
knowing what they're called is useful for communication, right? It's not dumb to know what all the things are called. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that don't let your education get in the way of knowing stuff. Go and learn some things with your
Yeah.
partner, with a real human, okay? Don't look in a book and say, oh, you're coming wrong. I'm supposed to be able to touch this thing and you're supposed
Yeah.
to do this. That's not how it works, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I wanted to even do a call back to our episode before last, where we were kind of like talking about affairs for a while, and I was talking about the basis of human addiction is actually anticipation, and that's like I think that's a huge like erogenous zone in everybody. Is like you don't just go in and jackhammer the clit or the dick or whatever, it's creating that anticipation. We love feeling desire. We love it when it can start gently and then like work up to where we want it. When you are able to want it before you have it, it makes the having it all that much more pleasurable, erotic, delightful, satisfying. So that's what I think you're kind of talking about.
Yes.
Is
Well, that's the thing.
creating the anticipation.
Never understood as a horny. This is the thing. Maybe someone can explain to me someday. But like, I was the horniest 18-year-old boy or 16-year-old boy or whatever. And when in those rare occasions when I could get a beautiful woman to come and wanted to be in a room when there are no parents and no one around and they're going to touch my penis. The idea of coming and then leaving, I was like, no, don't touch my penis yet. Let's play Yahtzee or something. Like, you're going to stay, right? Like, let's touch boobies. Let's do other things, because you finally, like, they smell good and they taste good. And why wouldn't you want to, like, keep them forever? So that's where you learn foreplay, y'all. Like, then they don't have to go away, because you could just keep,
Make it last.
keep making it last. Yeah.
Keep touching bits and going, what happens when I do this, and what happens when I do that, and it's like you're just exploring them.
Yeah. Especially that age. You're in your formative years of, just beginning to unwrap, unfold, and
Relationships
explore.
lasted a week. Okay. If you're having sex, it had to be, that was
3 months is a long-term relationship when you're that age.
Yeah. And sex can last, 7 seconds when you're that age. So it is good to make it last afterwards.
You're
after
like,
the fact.
you touch it, and you're like, why is my hand wet?
Oh, no. Right. Exactly.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
be consistent is another thing. So, again, starting from the outside, working in, starting slow, moving to faster, staying in slow as long as possible, right? Not getting to the end super quickly, and then finding. Now, this is a tough one, because you've brought up, like, you like to when you're giving a massage, you're reading the body with your hands, breathing. When you get into sex, there's sex noises, right? Sex noises are great. Sex noises, because they help you. It's like ooh, ooh, ah, ah, ee, ee, ooh, like, ee, ee, and you're trying to find the and you don't want that one.
Yeah.
And so they can help guide you. They aren't always there. They aren't always there. Sometimes. So the breathing, and this is a really important point about breathing. Breathing, and this is again something that I don't know if this is true. It works really well for me. If you use breathing as a metronome. And you think of it musically, and I know nothing about music either, but if you think of it as a beat, okay, I know what a beat is, and if a person is breathing at a certain pace, you can touch them just a little slower than that pace, just a little slower. That's a trick. I mean, you can touch them at that pace, it's fine, but just a little slower, just to leave a little extra, or at a half beat. So if they're going like that, you're going even slower, so that you're hitting at every other one, or double time, right? So paying attention to your partner's breathing and using it as a guide for not only it may work because it's a secret thing or something, or it may just work because it holds you to a specific cadence, and then when you select a new one, it's a multiple of that, so it feels natural, because we're used to music and dance, and our body likes to do those things. So why does it work? I don't know why it works.
Well, it
does
sounds
work,
like
though.
to me that it relates to that building anticipation more. Like, if you're seeing their body react in a way, and you sense what it wants, but you don't like give it up, you don't do exactly that, then it's going to fill up with more and more desire.
Yes.
And so the more you tantalize the bite of cake, everyone wants to have their cake and fuck it too, but the more you can, tease them with it, then the more the desire is going to build. And then when you finally get your mouth on that cake, it's going to be incredible.
Absolutely. Negative space. You got to leave space.
Yeah. And I think
out.
What you're talking about is like being an active listener. Their breathing is like talking to you, and your timing and response is saying, yes, I hear what you're saying, and you're saying this, and
it's an interplay, because they will move to your movements, and you'll I find that I react. So as I get into it, I'll make noises and breathe as they're making noises and breathe. And I'll actually feel things right before they happen. I swear this is where I feel like I have like a half-second ESP or something. Like, because I'll do something and I'll make a noise. I remember with a partner I was with for a very long time, she told me, you would make noises like right before I would make the noise, because I just knew her well. And I knew like slowly building up. And I know where the point we're going is. I've been there before, right? So I can, you know where you're at.
Yeah. You're like a tour guide.
Yeah.
We're about to go around this corner. Yeah.
But you can always learn new things too.
Can we add that to your resume?
Sex Sherpa?
Yeah.
I'm not good at high altitudes, unfortunately. I'll pass out.
Spelunking.
So, what's that?
I said spelunking.
Spelunking. Yes. Those little hats. So, on the topic of being consistent, one way I like to think of it is making what I like to think of as somatic contracts, soma being the body. So a somatic contract I like to think of as like, if I'm doing a thing to someone, I'm touching them at some specific in some specific way, and then all of a sudden I go wham, 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 or whatever, which is an extreme example.
Yeah.
It would be shocking, it would be jarring, even slightly. Like if you're doing this and all of a sudden you move to something just a little bit more, it can be jarring. So trying to find that natural multiple, like musically speaking, using music is a huge benefit on this front. Finding the right kind of music that your partner and you jam out to, and using that to guide you. And it can become kind of a dance. And if you're the receiver, a lot of time the receiver doesn't even notice that it's happening to the music because they're attempting to receive. So that one is a huge one for someone whose brain goes squirrel. It's like, because the beat will bring me right back around. Gotta catch that beat, and I can do it. Even my brain can squirrel for like half a second and bring me right back with the beat.
Yeah,
so that's good.
That's my brain worked like that through all my years of massage therapy as well, is that music really helps me to find a flow, and finding a flow that's good for me and my client. And, definitely that's an important aspect between you and your partner as well, is finding music that they like as well. Because I've had some clients show up on the table and be like, can you get rid of this like blue whale farting sounds in the background and the dolphins,
Hard to get laid to blue whales farting.
Yeah, exactly. Or even get a massage
don't
and like it. So, anyway.
And that, that is really the whole thing. Before I bombarded you with a big sheet thing that I had filled out because I was working on some class material for an in-person class and stuff. And I wanted to break it down to something small. In fact, maybe I'll write this down and we can give it out or something, because again, if you see Don Juan on the road, kill him. Okay. There's no secret, because people ask, that's what they ask me. That's the questions that I like when I interact with people in a sexual, because we go to sex parties and stuff and things like that. And, or when I was a sex worker, I had a client who liked to have her friends come to learn stuff, and it was really cool. But they would always ask me, like the same kinds of questions, and they were more about like a move or like some like trick or something.
Okay, I have a question already.
I'm going to ask the same question. Go for it.
Okay. So I don't know that much about Don Juan, and I think like he was just like the world's greatest womanizer, supposedly, right? Like,
sure.
Pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. So you're saying kill the womanizer, and
no, I'm just saying if you meet people that are sex experts, and they're going to tell you how you're going to do it. There is no right way.
You're trying to
like a guy
them.
who says, "I'm going to rock your world." Say, "No, you fucking aren't." I guarantee you are not going to rock my world if you think you're going to rock my world. But sex worker, can you sort of like give a broad general, because I think a lot of people when they hear sex worker, they think like prostitute on the corner, whatever. Can you give sort of like what you include in that definition?
I was curious about that too.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So I was married for a while, and then I got divorced and started dating, and I was dating a few people, and I went on a date with a nice person who we were dating for a little while, and I think she caught on that like I wasn't like super into her, but I liked playing with her, and that was cool and everything. But she was a busy person; she found someone else. This person was into her, and she was attracted to him, and she texted me or we talked on the phone or something. But anyway, it was really nice, and I said, "Hey, good luck. That's great." She said, "I'm not going to have a lot of time to hang out anymore," and I was totally okay with that. And then she texted me back a couple weeks later, and I said, "Hey, how's it going? How's your fella?" And she was disappointed in their sex, and but I think she realized that I think we had like 3 dates, and we hadn't really had like sexual interaction, right? It was mostly I would touch her and she would have an orgasm, and then she'd be kind of like tired or something, and she would want to go, and that's fine. I was dating a lot of people. I was okay with it. And it was fun. And so she goes, "So how would you feel if I just paid you?" And I was like, so would that make you feel better? And she goes, I think it would, because I think you're a great guy. I really like you. I want you to be happy. I want to give back to you. But I want to just be selfish. Like, I really like that I don't have to think about giving you that I can give you something different.
I want to starfish.
Yeah.
I want, so if I pay you $150, I can starfish.
You starfish.
That makes sense to me, because I think that a lot of, this is probably, you can tell me, but, this is probably the same for women and men. But I think, for women, especially like modern women who feel like, again, it's as soon as we're born into the world, we're handed a baby doll and we're like, nurture everything, make it happy, be selfless, don't value your time and, your skills. So then, there's this a high sense of responsibility to be, your worth comes from taking care of other people. And so that's a great way of giving yourself permission to be self-absorbed, to be direct, to, communicate all of your needs and wants without feeling guilty.
Yeah.
It's like,
That was precisely
I
it.
just want to pay you.
And she could just sit, she would sit and talk to me beforehand, or like she would have an orgasm and she has like a refractory period, so she wanted to sit and talk, and she was very talkative. She'd do the play-by-play, and then she would come with ideas and things she wanted to try, and it was really cool. It was really.
Did she pay you for the talking time too?
The way I operate is that I didn't have a flat rate. What I said to her, because I had to think about it, because I had never really thought about it before, and I'm not much for the market, shall we say? And so I felt bad. And I like sex, and I want to help people. And so what I said was, look, if you can afford it, you can pay me what you think you can afford. And,
A sliding scale.
it was totally a sliding scale. It
Wow,
worked out
so
really
you're
well.
like OHSU for pussies?
Yeah, exactly. I just was focusing on the metaphor of sliding scale. Anyway. That's where my mind goes.
No, I went
Anyway.
full Portland with that.
But we digress again. Go on.
So she eventually told a few people about me, and then I started seeing some people from FetLife and things like that, and just mostly through friends and other people, because that's the other part of it too, is that I think sex work for women, which is a whole different topic, but I think it's exactly what you said. It's like all those conditioning traits that you just said. Also, it's kind of like going out and getting your needs met in that way. In this culture, not accepted. Now, there are other cultures, and I'm not going to pretend I can name them. I've heard, but that where sex work for women is not frowned upon. And so I think there is hope. I don't think that's some internal thing. And I think it is particularly effective for the reasons that you stated, is that there's it's the same reason like a powerful person wants to go and release power, right? Or a person
Totally.
who, we all kind of want to find that release oftentimes in that thing that we just can't seem to get.
Right. I watched a documentary about, a BDSM dungeon in New York City, and it was like all these high-ranking CEO men,
Yeah.
millionaires, high-power positions, and they just wanted a place where they could release and.
Yeah. And I won't make fun of those people, because that kind of release, like there's a gravitas and a levitas to what I would call exchange kinds of play. And
What's a gravitas?
There's like, it's Latin. It's gravity and levity, right?
Oh,
Is
okay,
that,
that makes sense.
is that kind of paradoxically, I think, I talk about what I call the ultraviolet part of the scale, the spectrum, and there's the red side, the infrared.
Infrared, yeah.
And you can get reactivity and adrenaline and all these body juices flowing with a crop or a cat o' nine tails or some other pain activity. But you can also do that with pleasure, and it's a little bit different. But they can take you to these extreme states where your body, you kind of out of body experiences, And there is an allure to BDSM, because you're always going to get a reaction. It's going to come right away. You're going to know exactly how much, if it was too much, if it wasn't enough, and all that kind of stuff. And so there's kind of an appeal to being able to just like operate a person like a remote control. You can just push them and they're going to make all the noises. And it's just if you think about that and how increasing the intensity of that will increase the intensity of the reaction you get. And then you rewind it precisely in the opposite direction. That is where the ultraviolet aspect, metaphorically speaking, obviously comes in, which is like you just go slow. You go really slow.
Yeah, because
Really
you
good
don't want to go
space.
too hot too fast. You never want to go above someone's level where they start
You want them to ache for the
contracting.
next thing that
Yes.
you're going to do to them.
You want
right?
them always expanding,
Reaching.
Yeah.
always opening, male or female, always exposing, always
too.
expanding. Yes,
Yeah.
rather than contracting. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I see all the notes, though. Keep going.
Well, I think that's pretty much.
Oh,
okay,
that's
okay.
it.
So
Yeah.
we
I
are
mean,
getting close to time. So I would love to ask the question:
Please.
have you been in a situation recently, or at any point in time, during which you've been like, was that an orgy that you would like to unpack with us?
I would have been a little more like. I feel like I had a pat answer for that before, but I did have it. But it was interesting. Okay, so the pat answer is the dictionary definition, which in my own brain made sense, and I looked it up, and it was precisely the definition I found in the dictionary, which is sex with 5 people. Now, why 5 people?
Why is it 5?
Why 5
I
people?
have an idea. Just
So that's like
Yeah,
2 couples
Okay.
and
So-
1 unicorn or stallion, whatever.
God, it's so awkward that I know our mom is listening every time. Like, all right, well,
Ignore mom.
okay,
She's
Mom.
fine. She's
Sorry,
fine.
Mom.
Just move on.
But
Mom, you're
you know,
fine.
So anyway,
Mom, put in your earplugs.
Me and a past boyfriend, we went over to like another couple's house, and like, you know, Jesus Christ, my mom's gonna listen to this. So
And they
then-
played Yahtzee. That's
we
couples
played
exchange.
Yahtzee. No, so basically, this friend of mine, you know, I had permission from the boyfriend I had at the time. He thought it was hot if I made out with women, so we did that. And then one day we went over there and we got a little lit, and then all of a sudden my friend's like, Teresa, you want me to eat your pussy? And we were upstairs, and it was like, well, sure.
Oh my God, I'm totally guessing who this is, and I think I know.
Opportunity destroyer. So then, like, you know, she's doing that, and we're like, wait. And then our boyfriends come upstairs, and they're like, hubba chubba, hubba what? You know? And then we were like, come on in, the water's fine. You know? And then so we had like a different positions happening. We kind of partner swapped for a little while, but then my boyfriend, you know, he just got whiskey dick. He got hella drunk. He tried to pee in the closet. And
Whoa,
then,
what? Huh?
And then, yeah. And then,
There's always one.
There's always
There's
one.
always one who
one.
tries
And
to pee in the closet.
at some
Good
point,
Lord.
like I see my friend's like head pop up on the side of the bed, and she's like, "Oh, hey guys, I hate to be a downer, but my date passed out," you know. And then we're like, "Oh yeah, we'll stop." And then we put her on the bed, and then like her partner went down and her, and then you know my partner came to enough to just grab a tit, and you know we each were on a tit, and then you know mad screaming orgasm, yay, woo! But then afterwards, I was like, was that an orgy? I mean, we kind of partner swapped, but she started with me, and then
Dynamic
so-
speaking. Well, that's the thing. Yours
Yeah.
is that there's just so many different people around. It's not like they're all happening at once. So my only
Yeah.
question is,
Right.
does it all have to happen concurrently for it to be an orgy, or can you just have
Yeah.
people
I
like
think it does.
lounging around?
So yeah, this is where
Yeah.
we're going to have the philosophical debate.
Yeah.
For my definition of an orgy, if you're having 2 separate dyadic events, so dyadic being one-on-one,
Sure.
then that does not count as an orgy. That's more like partner swapping.
right. That's
So-
what I thought.
But if you're having 2 somewhat dyadic events where maybe feet are touching and blah-de-blah-de-blah, and there's a little bit of crossover, maybe you're touching an orgy town.
Okay,
Maybe,
can I
maybe
bring
you're
up
on the
a-
outskirts.
Yeah.
Maybe
Does
you're
it-
in the
Does it
Beaverton.
really matter though? That's really what I finally come down on is
No.
in the end, I am not a fan of semantic arguments.
Totally,
because they always end up
doesn't
just like
matter.
this.
But that's what I love about it is because it's like it is all semantics and like
Yeah.
as long as everyone's having fun, who gives a shit what you call
Right,
it, right?
exactly.
Which
So-
you know actually does kind of give the lie to a
Okay.
bunch of
I've
our
been to super lame
strange
orgies.
erotic-
You guys.
Yes.
I just had an idea.
Boom.
We create language. Who knows who creates the next word and the next definition? I think we should just start like a very deep probe, no pun intended, and redefine it and send it to Webster's. Like we'll figure it out on our own, you know.
All right,
and
contest
we'll tell
Well, now we
Yeah.
have to ask
"You're
ourselves what we
wrong."
want the definition of orgy to be, which is
There you go. Includes this, doesn't
becoming.
include that.
This is getting even more complicated.
Okay, let's.
Yeah.
I would like the Webster's definition of orgy to be totally bitchin' experience involving more than 3 people. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Because I think any orgy should be awesome
All
by
of them.
definition. Like fun, just amazing.
Yeah.
So a lame experience, maybe we should say like, no, that's definitely not an orgy, even if there were 20 people involved.
So orgy implies a level of satisfaction then. So if it's
Yeah,
if
no, that's
there's
just me.
if there's 8 people and it sucks and everyone leaves just like chafed and limp dicked and
Well-
dissatisfied, that was not an orgy.
I talked to someone recently who's like, well, really, by definition, it should involve food and sex. And I'm like, well, hell
I know who you
yes.
were talking to, and that is not right.
It,
There should never be an open buffet at an orgy.
I know.
because you're thinking like pubes in my ham sandwich, not good.
I have a
right?
bad
Yeah,
imagination.
exactly. I agree.
But
It's a good after dinner floss, the pubes, but I would prefer to separate the events. Yeah.
right. I tend to think of it as 5 or more. And because, and really just for me, because 4 usually becomes 2 and 2.
Yeah.
And usually there isn't a whole
That's-
lot of
that's the-
crossover.
That's what makes so qualitatively what makes an orgy, in my opinion, like the times that I've been at sex parties where the feeling is different, like it feels different. Not that all these aren't, a single person's exciting, being with a threesome super exciting, couples is exciting. But I got to be in an orgy a long time ago with like 6 people, so there's like 6 people total, and we rented a hotel room. We were young, rented a hotel room. God, we're young and good looking. It was a long time ago.
You're still doing great. Buddy. You're doing great.
Yeah.
It's still like 20 years ago. And I guess we were so drunk and high, and we've been there for so long and having sex for so long, you just roll over and you just laugh. You're like, oh, it's you. And then off you go. And it's like, you're not even, people are just, jumping on the bed, and we were eating cookies and stuff and smoking ciggies out the window.
I kind of add to that too, that, if we have enough time.
Yeah, we're good for,
So this,
do we?
Okay.
I guess we can just
We're
keep
going
rolling for a while.
We're going for it. But like, I remember like when this friend first, she approached me and that same boyfriend, in the beginning of my relationship with that boyfriend, we were like, I don't want this to get in the way of our friendship. And we were just afraid that like jealousy would start to happen, and we didn't have this community or the skill set back then. But then after Jim Beam stuck his peg leg into the situation and helped to lubricate our
Jim Beam's
inhibitions.
lubricating peg leg.
Yeah, exactly. That lubricating peg leg. Watch the splinters.
Jim Beam, if you're watching, you owe her for that.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
You
Yeah,
can't just steal
I
that.
still have splinters. But in any case, what was enlightening about it was that the next day I felt like beyond fine. I actually felt like I felt closer to them, and I felt more trusting because it didn't ruin our friendship. And
Was this compersion?
Yeah.
oh my
Dun, dun,
God.
Well, it's also that
I've done it. I've done
You did it. Oh my
That-
God, you're such an enlightened human.
But that actual feeling, that feeling of being through the fire, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is what
Yeah.
camaraderie is, right? Is that you have a stressful
Yeah.
situation with someone and you come through the other side. So it's a strange, but I think it's very similar to camaraderie, and which it feels like the kind of thing where you go, yay, and you have drinks
Yeah.
stuff, but that's not, camaraderie is like a really important thing, and I think that's what, like, as sociosexual people, in living in a world where we're trying to find alternatives to a kind of like, monopoly, monogamy monopoly on the way that we live our relationships, we gotta experiment and gotta go have fun. So it's very vindicating, and it
Hell
feels like, it feels vindicating, which is
Yeah.
part of what makes it feel so nice.
And I'm going to quote myself because it's tacky and I'm not kind of bitch.
Damn
Do it.
straight,
You know,
bitch.
when I was a stoner in my 20s and just constantly writing and didn't have this amazing circle of friends, I came up with this idea that your liberation lies just beyond your fear. And I definitely find that again and again and again in my life, that like there's that thing I'm fearing, even though it sounds kind of good. And then when I do it, typically on the other side, I'm like, oh, we got to the, I wanted to bring up that monster at the end of the book with Grover, but everyone doesn't know that. When you
Yes.
you keep turning the pages of your fear and you get to the end of it and there's nothing there.
That book was terrifying.
That
Book was terrifying.
It terrified me too.
When you're 3.
Amazing.
Yes, for everyone that remembers, what was that book called? There's a monster at the end of this book. With,
Yeah.
by
They
Grover
tell you
from-
at the beginning that it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It
But
was.
it's such a great metaphor for life, because
Right.
if you're running away from something that scares the shit out of you, if you just stop and you turn around and you face it, you will find out that pit bull is a chihuahua, or
Right.
or at least a
Or
middle-sized
you'll get mauled by a
dog.
pit bull.
Or maybe a small pit bull,
Or you
or
have-
something like that.
Or you find you like pit bulls.
Or
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
next. Me.
Okay,
me.
go.
Either that, or like you find at the end of it that you have the capacity to deal with it. We're just highly adaptive, and so oftentimes what we fear is much worse than our fears, and we're so much more capable and adaptive of confronting that and not having this feared, traumatizing, disempowering experience. But actually, that is the catalyst to get us to the next level of bravery. Like, I think I even heard that, they, in talking to soldiers of war and stuff, they talked about courage is what you feel after the battle, after you've survived. And then you look back and you go like, oh, well, now I feel stronger and more capable. I did that. it's not what you feel going into it. Like, I fear nothing.
Well, bravery, I've always, the quote that bravery, you can't be brave without fear, right? Bravery is overcoming your fears.
There you
True.
go. I love it.
And
And now we have gone over an hour, haven't we?
We have. So
Yeah.
we are out of time. So we will be a big see you next Tuesday. And we will see you next Tuesday.
I won't.
What do we
So,
have next Tuesday anyway?
Joseph.
Oh, Joseph.
Well, that's to be determined still.
Okay.
But yes, we will figure it out. In the meantime, Joseph, do you have anything you'd like to plug on your way out? Like as you're
like your butt?
anything you'd like people to know
Can I do
about?
that?
Sorry. Do you have any butt plugs you'd like to plug before on your way?
I kind of stopped doing all of the things when COVID came around, and I really haven't been doing much. So
I
this
don't like
is
ass play either.
if you want me to come, talk about. I would love to be. I want to get more into sex education. So while
Sweet.
I've enjoyed doing sex work, and we'll probably do more of it, I think really it's this kind of thing where just talking to people about sex and making better sex happen.
Yes. I can get so behind that, and I can even give that a reach around.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So if you enjoyed this program, check out more episodes on talkcastpdx.com. And if you have any questions, comments, advice, or things you'd like us to address on future episodes, email us at wasthatAnorgy@gmail.com. And I would like to reiterate that this amazing hair, as well as the opinions expressed, only represent us here in the room and no other organization.
Same for these David Lee Roth pubes I have on my head.
Yes, David Lee Roth's pubes.
That's what I was born with.
I've got
Do
my
not
COVID hair going on there.
represent this. I love your COVID hair. It's amazing. Super sexy. Yeah.
We digress.
Anyway, goodbye, everyone. See you next Tuesday, and stay sexy and horny. Woo! Bye-bye.
Well done. Woo, yes.
Well, dude, that hour flew by. Incredible.